There we go. Hello, fellow mystery lovers. Well, today our look at season 3 of Sherlock begins with the Empty Hearse. So, here we go. 2 years after his supposed death, Sherlock Holmes has been completely exonerated of the slanderous accusations against him originated by Jim Moriarty and secretly returns to London to help his brother Mycroft uncover an apparent, imminent, and huge terrorist attack. An interleaving scene shows a version of how Sherlock might have picked his death. While jumping for the roof with a bungee cable, bouncing back and entering the building through a window, leaving Moriarty's body with a Sherlock mask to mislead John and other onlookers. John himself being hypnotized by Darren Brown to give the time for this to be set up. This version of events is later shown to be a conspiracy theory invented by Philip Anderson, who feels responsible for Sherlock's death. How? John now has a girlfriend, Mary Morstan, to whom he intends to propose in a restaurant. At this point, Sherlock, disguised as a French waiter, approaches the couple, but is not immediately recognized by John. When Sherlock reveals his identity, John attacks him 3 times in 3 different restaurants. When John refuses to accept his explanations, Sherlock enlists Molly to assist him in his next case, that of an underground skeleton behind a desk containing a manuscript, How I Did It by Jack the Ripper, revealing toward the end of the episode to be a fake planted by Anderson to lure Sherlock out of hiding. Later that day, Mary receives a text in a skip code, first in every 3 words, telling her that John has been kidnapped by unknown assailants and will die if he is not rescued in time, along with a coded location. Sherlock and Mary come to his rescue on a motorcycle and manage to drag him out of a lit bonfire in which a Guy Fawkes effigy, was about to be burned. Ooh. Sherlock is shown a video by a London Underground employee of a mysterious vanishing of a passenger from a train between 2 stations near Parliament, and later identifies the passenger as a member of the House of Lords, Lord Moran, whom he knows to be a foreign agent and who is also acting unusually. He notices that it is not only Moran who vanished, but an entire carriage of the train, and deduces that the attack will be on the Houses of Parliament, which will be holding a late-night hearing on a new anti-terrorism bill on Guy Fawkes Night, November 5th. Sherlock and John enter the abandoned station near Parliament, finding the secretly diverted carriage. It is rigged with explosives to make an enormous bomb. Sherlock manages to defuse the bomb by turning the off switch, but not before making John believe the bomb can't be defused, leading Sherlock to apologize to John for getting him involved and say that John would have had a future if he hadn't come back. This will have the intended effect of causing John to panic and reveal to Sherlock how much he missed him. How much he has missed him, to John's later embarrassment. Another cutscene intercut with the above shows Sherlock visiting Anderson, revealing to him how he faked his death, as part of a plan to persuade Moriarty of his lost credibility and death, allowing him to successfully dissolve Moriarty's network. Sherlock tells Anderson that he and Mycroft had anticipated 13 possible scenarios that could happen on the roof, and that while John's view was obstructed, members of his homeless network rolled out an inflatable mattress and took their roles as shocked bystanders and paramedics. With the aid of a squash ball under his arm to temporarily stop his pulse, Sherlock convincingly faked his own death. Anderson cast doubt on the veracity of this version of events, arguing it would be nearly impossible to ensure John remained exactly where Sherlock wanted. Anderson points out that he is the last person Sherlock would tell. When he turns around, the room is empty. Anderson then begins tearing his theories from the wall, laughing hysterically, and the intercut scene ends. Moran is ambushed by the police and arrested as he leaves his hotel suite. John asks Sherlock who abducted him and why, questions to which Sherlock has no answers yet. In the final scene, a bespectacled man with blue eyes is seen observing footage of Sherlock and Mary rescuing John from the fire. Oh boy. Well, anyway, let's look at the sources. Let's look at some episode sources here. First of all, The Adventure of the Empty House. The most obvious source of this episode, to which its title alludes, is The Adventure of the Empty House, in which Sherlock Holmes returns from his great hiatus, having allowed everyone to believe him dead to root out the rest of Moriarty's criminal organization. In both the story and the episode, Mycroft helps Sherlock fake his demise. The villainous Moran in this episode is named after Colonel Sebastian Moran, the villain of the original story, The Adventure of the Empty House. Watson first encounters Holmes, disguised as a heavily accented and bearded book salesman with a shop on the corner of Church Street, who offers Watson some books. In the episode, John encounters the man as his patient who owns a DVD shop at the same location. The man offers to sell him pornographic DVDs, with titles almost identical to the books Watson was offered by the disguised Holmes in the story: Tree Worshippers, British Birds, Catalysts, and Holy War. John falsely assumes it is Sherlock in disguise, with embarrassing results. It is also a reference to a scene from The Spider-Woman starring Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce. Moffat have cited the film series as another source of inspiration when writing Sherlock. The remainder of the episode's storyline is largely original. Sherlock Holmes alludes to a system of Japanese wrestling as the second of 13 scenarios that might have allowed him to survive his rooftop encounter with Moriarty. This is a reference to the fictional martial art of Baritsu, which is used by Holmes to defeat Moriarty in the original story. That's interesting. So let's look at how this episode has allusions to other Sherlock Holmes stories. Apart from The Adventure of the Empty House, the episode contains allusions to many other Conan Doyle short stories. Sherlock calls Lord Moran by the codename Giant Rat of Sumatra Road because of his status as a mole for North Korea, a reference to the Giant Rat of Sumatra mentioned in passing in The Adventure of the Sussex Vampire, and because Moran's planned terrorist attack involves an abandoned section of the London Underground system called Sumatra Road. In The Adventure of Reigate Square, Watson mentions in passing the case of the Netherlands Sumatra Company and the colossal schemes of Baron Maupertuis. Sorry if I butchered that. The episode references this, and the repeated mention of Sumatra is similarly featuring a member. The repeated mention of Sumatra by similarly featuring a member of the House of Lords, Lord Moran, as a scheming villain. Furthermore, in the beginning of the episode, Sherlock and Mycroft have returned to London from Siberia. After Sherlock and Mycroft have returned to London from Siberia, Mycroft mentions Baron Maupertuis by name. At one point, Sherlock asks the bearded man selling DVDs if his usual GP is Dr. Werner, who, in The Adventure of the Norwood Builder, as a cousin of Sherlock Holmes, buys Watson's practice so he can move back into his old rooms on Baker Street upon Holmes's return. Sherlock refers to an unseen character called Professor Presbury and Monkey Glance, both from the story of The Adventure of the Creeping Man. In The Adventure of the Greek Interpreter, the first story to feature Sherlock's brother Mycroft Holmes, Sherlock mentions that his grandmother was the sister of the French artist Horace Vernet. The fact that Holmes impersonates a French waiter at the beginning of the episode may be a reference to his French heritage. The scene where Sherlock and Mycroft try to out-deduce each other in Sherlock's flat is also a reference from the Greek Interpreter, where they engage in a similar competition while sitting in Mycroft's Diogenes Club. Sherlock and Mycroft's competition is over analyzing a particular knitted hat, a reference to The Adventure of the Blue Carbuncle, where Holmes also deduces several facts about a man from his hat. Furthermore, in the episode, when Mycroft determines that the knitted hat belonged to a man, Sherlock asks, why the size of the hat? To which Mycroft reproachingly replies, don't be silly, some women have large heads too. Sherlock's subsequent look of guilt is a satirical allusion to the controversial pseudoscientific phrenology involved in the original short story, where Sherlock Holmes deduced that the owner of the hat was intelligent based on the size of his head, remarking, a man with so large a brain must have something in it. The episode features John's engagement to Mary Morstan, who appears in the novel The Sign of the Four. Mary is seen reading John's blog, and the passage she reads out loud is an almost verbatim excerpt from Chapter 6 of The Sign of the Four. So swift, silent, and furtive were his movements, like those of a trained bloodhound picking out a scent. At one point, Mary receives a text message on her mobile phone that starts with the phrase, John or James Watson, a reference to the man with the twisted lip, in which Mary calls her husband James rather than John, prompting the fan theory that his middle initials stand for Hamish, a variant of James, a theory incorporated into the early episode of Scandal in Belgravia. Sherlock points out to Mary that the above-mentioned text message is a skip code, a type of code where each word of the secret message is given as every third word of the apparent message, a reference to The Adventure of Gloria Scott, where Holmes shows and explains to Watson a message with the same type of code. In the short scene, Sherlock very quickly solves an adaptation of a case of identity when a young woman consults him about the disappearance of her online boyfriend, determining that it was in fact her stepfather who had posed as her online boyfriend to break her heart, keep her at home in grief, and maintain control over her finances. Mere moments after hearing the woman's story, Sherlock promptly tells her stepfather, who was feigning concern and joy during consulting him, that he is a complete and utter pisspot, alluding to Holmes's reprimand of the man in the original short story. The episode also references the Conan Doyle story, The Lost Special, in which a train goes missing into an unused section of the railway, and which features an unnamed character who might be Sherlock Holmes, referred to simply as an amateur reasoner of some celebrity. Interesting. Now let's look at the production of this episode, beginning with casting. Many of the cast from the previous two series returned, with Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman playing Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson. Freeman's real-life partner, Amanda Abington, joined the cast as Mary Morstan, Watson's girlfriend. Cumberbatch's parents, Wanda Vedham and Timothy Carlton, had cameos as Sherlock's parents. Nice. Now on to writing. The Empty Hearse was written by the series co-creator Mark Gatiss. It was inspired to use the London Underground as a setting by the 1968 Doctor Who serial The Web of Fear, a story which is primarily set in the underground after London is evacuated due to the spread of a deadly web-like fungus via the tube network. Last but not least, filming. Principal photography on the episode began in March 2013. Tabloid newspaper Daily Mail reported that Benedict Cumberbatch and Amanda Abington filmed the bonfire scene in Portland Square in Bristol. The resolution to how Holmes faked his death at the end of the Reichenbach Fall was filmed in April 2013 at St. Bart's Hospital in London. The filming was attended by several hundred fans, whom producer Sue Virtue begged not to leak too much information. Telegraph journalist Cheryl Garrett reported that the filming was deliberately confusing to the watching fans, and the explanation of how Sherlock faked his death was blanked in the script. The London Underground train used in the episode was built from scratch by the production to look like a District Line carriage, as they were unable to acquire a real train. The ever-completed tube station called Sumatra Road is based on North End Tube Station. Filming was carried out at Westminster and Charing Cross stations. That's interesting. So overall, as the first episode of Season 3, it's really darn good, and, well, I kind of wish there was at least a concrete explanation as to Sherlock faked his death, but, what you gonna do? So overall, I give The Empty Hearse 4 Deerstalkers out of 5. Well, tune in tomorrow to take a look at The Sign of 3. So until then, remember everyone, the game's afoot.